It's a great pleasure for me to join you at this Ship to Be forum to talk about impact greenwashing and impact measurement. One of the resounding themes of COP26 has been greenwashing. It's clear that a lot of young people and others, including investors, are getting extremely concerned now about companies making misleading claims about the impacts they deliver. And given that impact data can be shown to have become price sensitive, shifting the values of companies on the stock exchange, boosting the value of Tesla sevenfold in 2020 alone, reducing the value of ExxonMobil by 2/3 over a period of 3 years. We all have to be extremely concerned about claims that are being made by companies. And the question is, how do you deal with greenwashing? Well, it's obvious why greenwashing exists. It exists because impact is perceived today as enhancing the performance of a company and therefore potentially its valuation, its ability to attract talent, its ability to attract customers. The only way to deal with it, really, is to provide transparency on the real impacts that companies are creating. And many of us over the last few decades have got used to manipulating metrics, tons of CO2, liters of water, sometimes percentages of gender employment or ethnic employment, proxies for measuring diversity, and so on. And of course, we've got used to using rating systems, which take certain categories and put companies in order in these categories. It could be carbon emissions, for example. But the problem is that it's very difficult to use this disparate information, these disparate metrics, in assessing the overall impact of a company, in comparing different impacts, and then in comparing impacts with profits. And so we find ourselves moving now towards a system that will measure in monetary terms the impacts of companies and include these figures initially, I believe, in a financial statement that shows both impacts and profits. Now, in recent weeks, we've taken a major step forward with the announcement that the International Sustainable Standards Board will be set up by IFRS, the foundation of which is responsible for all financial accounting outside of the United States across the whole world. This is a major step forward. ISSB has given itself the objective of agreeing metrics, so not monetary values, but metrics, tons of carbons and liters of water and so on, not just for environmental issues, but for social issues as well. So we have gone past asking the question, will we be measuring impacts? We have the answer. We will be measuring impacts, and they will become part of the day-to-day practice of investment and of business. And so the new question that arises now is, how will we measure these impacts? And I want to share with you some insights from the work we've been doing at Harvard Business School in the Impact Weighted Accounts Initiative. This initiative, which started a couple of years ago, has sought to bring monetary valuation to the tons of carbon, liters of water, percentages of gender employment, and so on and so forth. And on the basis of information which is in the public domain, it has put together thousands of companies, environmental and now social impacts as well, employment impact in particular. And I want to give you an insight into the future. If you look at the 3,000 companies which the IWAI has published in its data set on environmental impact from the operations of companies, you will see, and by the way, it's open for everyone to access free of charge. You just go to HBS IWA, you will see that 450 companies out of the 3,000 create more environmental damage in a year than they make in profit. That 1,000 companies create environmental damage equivalent to a quarter or more of their profit. That together, these 3,000 companies create $4 trillion worth of environmental damage in a single year. And most interestingly, we can see a correlation already as a result of the $40 trillion of ESG money, which has gone to investment markets, between higher levels of pollution within sectors and lower stock market valuations. So that despite very vague measures of impact, the flows of investment capital are already beginning to shift the valuations of companies. Now, the IWAI has done the same for employment impact and will soon be publishing figures for 2,500 companies, impact through their employment practices on diversity, differences in pay, gender equality, in advancement, and so on and so forth. What we have been able to do, because of the existence of big data and technology, is to compare the demographics within a facility with the demographics inside it, ascribe remuneration levels, and arrive at the figure for the cost to an ethnic or gender community of having been excluded from employment. And finally, we will be publishing by the end of this year the product impacts of companies across 10 sectors. Initially, tens of companies in each sector, and subsequently thousands of companies. So we will be able to measure very soon all of the impacts that a company creates through its operations, employment, and products, and also through its supply chains. This is what we need to achieve if we want to stamp out greenwashing. If we can measure and compare impacts, environmental and social ones, and within environmental and within social, different impacts like diversity and differences in pay and carbon emissions and water usage. And if we can relate these to profit, then we enable investors to bring impacts into financial analysis and the valuation of companies. This is the next frontier for capitalism and our society.
Como siempre, Sir Ronald Cohen nos marca el camino Claramente, si queremos que el movimiento del impacto se consolide, la clave está en la medición del impacto, y para medir el impacto hay que medirlo todo. Hay que medir lo bueno y lo malo. No hay que hacer solo memorias bonitas de sostenibilidad para vender la moto y mostrando todo lo bonito que hacemos en la empresa y después dejando en el armario o en el garaje aparcando todo lo negativo, que nadie nos lo mire. Hay que hacer también las memorias de insostenibilidad. ¿Dónde estoy siendo insostenible? ¿Y dónde estoy sostenible? Y realmente el balance de todo lo que hago es positivo o es negativo. Y para eso es fundamental la contabilidad. Y si Ronald Cohen de alguna manera nos dice, hay que hacer también la contabilidad ajustada por el impacto. Y nos hace un anuncio, que es uno de los grandes anuncios de este Impact Forum, de este Ship2B Impact Forum, que es que a día de hoy ya se ha creado el International Sustainable Standard Board en la entidad IFRS, que es la entidad internacional que marca los estándares de contabilidad, para desarrollar estos nuevos estándares de contabilidad ajustada por el impacto.
Hemos hablado mucho del papel y del rol de la empresa privada, de las startups, pero si queremos realmente avanzar hacia una economía de impacto, eso no es suficiente. La clave está en generar alianzas con otros agentes que también son claves para la consecución de esta economía y para conseguir de esta forma avanzar mucho más hacia el impacto. Necesitamos mucho más compromiso tanto del sector privado, del sector inversor, pero también de las administraciones públicas y de la filantropía. Necesitamos pasar de las palabras, de las reuniones estratégicas, a hechos, a acciones concretas. Necesitamos propuestas de trabajo, sentar en la misma mesa a todos estos agentes, asignar responsabilidades y también recursos que nos permitan realmente poder avanzar hacia este mundo del impacto. Y para eso es necesario el rol de la administración pública. La administración pública, los gobiernos, van a jugar un papel muy relevante si realmente queremos conseguir avanzar hacia ese nuevo modelo económico, ese nuevo modelo productivo que será la economía de impacto. Para ello, estamos viendo, como en otros países como Portugal, Francia, realmente el compromiso de la administración pública ha hecho que avance muchísimo tanto la inversión de impacto, el social business. Necesitamos, por tanto, esa colaboración y, sobre todo, que la administración pública empiece a hacer acciones para ir y para avanzar hacia esa transformación. Hoy tenemos a Felipe Almeida, presidente de Portugal de Innovación Social, y también a Stéphanie Gouchon, CEO de French Impact, que nos hablarán de cómo desde el Gobierno de Portugal y el Gobierno francés están avanzando con estas iniciativas. Un panel que cuenta con el apoyo de CaixaBank y está moderado por José Luis Ruiz de Munaín, CEO de Spain Up.